Pakistan has a very dedicated organization called the ISPR. Can you tell us about that, and how Pakistan approaches information warfare and psyops?
For Pakistan, information was never about actually influence ops. For Pakistan, it was a matter of survival because it had lost all wars against India. And information warfare is cheap. It does not cost as much as an aircraft or a tank or a battalion of infantry soldiers or a battery of artillery. It's fairly cheap, and it can be done. So if you see the Pakistanis, there'll be a lot of action on Twitter. There'll be a lot of videos. There'll be a lot of articles in newspapers. But their army, I often joke with the Pakistanis, and they don't like it when I speak to them. I have friends in Pakistan, and I say that, the only fighting corps in Pakistan, is the ISPR. They're the only ones fighting. The rest of the Pakistani army is not fighting at all. So ISPR was raised in 1949. And now ISPR is headed by a major general. His name is Major General Babar Iftikhar. And earlier it was Asif Ghafoor, who's now gone on to command an infantry division in Pakistan. So ISPR is essentially run by the army. It is supposed to be inter-services. In Pakistan, anything that is inter-services, including the ISI, which is supposed to be an inter-services body by its very name and definition, that is run by the army. So our army says there is nothing called inter-services. We are inter-services and we'll run it. So the Pakistani army runs it. The way they do it is they have a lot of these young people in Pakistan, video editors, graphic designers, motion graphics, singers, content writers, these kind of people, right? And they are paid and they are brought under the aegis of the ISPR. And these are the people who sort of create content and proliferate. Also, ISPR and ISI were directly controlling Lord Nazir Ahmed, or former Lord Nazir Ahmed of UK. He was a lord in obviously the House of Lords, needless to say. And then we ran a sustained campaign against him, and we brought truth out in the open. He was ISI's man in the British Parliament. And whenever an Indian Prime Minister or somebody went, he would have these free Kashmir written on buses and all that. So he was their conduit. He would funnel money and he would do all those things. But what actually the British Parliament found out was that he was guilty of rape, and he was guilty of sexual crimes. And now he is no longer Lord Nazir Ahmed, he's Mr. Nazir Ahmed. So why he is out of jail absolutely beats me. That man deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life. But this is how the Pakistanis do it. They use the Pakistani diaspora, and they use the Pakistani diaspora effectively for information warfare purposes. Not everybody who's a Pakistani is involved in this, but there are people within Pakistan who control people who are outside Pakistan, and their hubs are Canada, their hubs are US and Europe, especially London. And they take advantage of something that exists. And I will tell you what that thing is. Pakistanis are past masters at playing victim. Okay? And they take advantage of what we know as white guilt. For the benefit of our viewers, there's this thing that the colonial experience was terrible, and nobody looks at the colonial experience with any sort of fondness. And there is this guilt that we have done wrong among a large section of the white population, and much of that is it is acceptable in the sense that it's true. I mean, of course, the kind of horrible things that the colonial powers did, whether the British or the French or the Italians or the Dutch or the Portuguese, was terrifying for the native population, and it was terrible in many senses. But the fact that Pakistan uses that niche, and Pakistan pushes its agenda. So they will get a lot of people and say that, India is doing this in Kashmir, for example. Now, that Pakistani has never come to Kashmir. And the British man or woman who's writing a pro-Pakistani article in any newspaper in UK has never been to Kashmir. But this playing up this victim card, Pakistan does it so effectively. I mean, no other nation on earth plays the victim card as beautifully as the Pakistanis, and hats off to the Pakistanis. A Pakistani will kill you. All right, Kamal? He will kill you, and then he will make you feel guilty for not dying properly. Right. That is the level of victimhood that they sell to the outside world, and they are past masters of selling victimhood. And victimhood, the reason why I'm repeating this again and again is that the selling of this victimhood narrative, especially to the white population in the US, Canada, and UK, specifically in Europe, UK, is something that forms a cornerstone of Pakistan's information warfare setup. Get the white person, go to him, say that we have been wronged. And if any nation has taken a leaf out of Joseph Goebbels' book, it is Pakistan. The Chinese are at another level altogether. The Russians are at another level altogether. But if you have a good copy, which sometimes on a good day can pass off as the original, it is the Pakistanis.
Very, very fascinating, Major Ji. If we look at India now, and if we have to, let's say, look at whether India, as not just contemporary affairs or things that are happening now, but if you look at the last 70 years, has India in some ways woken up to this challenge a little too late? Would you think so?
No, absolutely, you're right. We've woken up a little too late. But the kind of finances we have, the kind of depth we have in terms of our own diaspora, if India got down to doing PSYOPs, and if India got down to doing IW operations, information warfare operations, with all seriousness, trust me, there would be no Chinese and there would be no Pakistanis anywhere. The issue is that nobody understands Chinese. The Chinese are richer than us. Absolutely. There is no shame in saying that, and there is no doubt. And the Chinese have a bigger spread across the world, but nobody understands Chinese. And information warfare is all about communicating. The Indians form the largest English-speaking population in the world. We have more English speakers than the combined population of Canada and the United States. So the thing is that we should focus on this, like they say in Hindi, "Der aaye durust aaye." It's never too late. Let's focus on this and let us understand that. I was telling an army general once, and he really appreciated it, and I will not say this because the army general is still serving. So I told this general that, sir, in today's day and age, a 16-year-old boy with a laptop, with the right hardware and software and the right kind of talent is far, far more dangerous than an armored brigade. And initially he was shocked. Then he said, "Gaurav, why are you saying this?" I said, "Sir, because today when you talk about network-centric operations in the army, when you talk about everything connected, to the World Wide Web, we are rolling out 5G this year, hopefully, right? Connectivity becomes much more deeply ingrained into our system. And what is connected can be hacked. What is connected can be influenced. And what is connected can always be compromised. So you need to raise an army of not just IW people, but also cyber experts. You need to have a separate core for that. The Indian Army is working on it, and there have been media reports. And whatever little knowledge I have is from media reports. The Indian Army is working on it, but the key here is civilians. Mm-hmm. Because the kind of talent that is required for this kind of warfare may be available in a limited quantity in any army, whether it's the British Army or the US Army, Chinese Army, Pakistan Army, or even the Indian Army. But the real talent is these, nerds, these IT kids. They are the real warriors. They're the real soldiers in this kind of war. IW, when you talk about information warfare, you need musicians, you need scriptwriters, you need social media experts, you need so many of such people, who may not be there in the army, because the Indian army is a hardcore offensive force. That is the mindset from the academy. It's always attack, 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 attack. That is the way the army thinks. They also have defensive operations, but and the army is a great student. The Indian army is a great student. They will learn, they will pick up, and they'll do it better than anybody else in the country over a period of time. But I think a lot more needs to be done in this space. A lot more needs to be done.
Absolutely, sir. And I want to come back to one of the things, which is, psyops or narratives, and narratives with things happening on the ground as well. So last year, when we saw the Galwan clash, uh, India appeared to be in control when it came to demonstrating strength, not only on the battlefield on the ground, but also in terms of minds, right? In the kind of actions that we took, and also the story that we told. So do you think our approach towards these issues changing in the recent past, especially when it comes to combining things on the ground with what we put out?
Uh, See, there are two things. On ground, we are extremely strong. So let me tell you, any Indian who is watching this and who thinks that uh, Chinese army has got an edge on us or edge over us, and the Indian army is a walkover, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We today have the capability. We've done it. We've done it in East Ladakh very recently. My own unit is there. I'm from 17 Kumaon. My unit is there in East Ladakh. And we gave a hiding of a lifetime to the Chinese. They had to hide their own casualties. Uh, you know, and in Galwan, where the Bihar regiment was and Punjab regiment was, and there was one field and one medium regiment of the artillery, these soldiers together, led by Colonel Babu, who laid down his life for the country, uh, you know, the Chinese know. The Chinese know that they are up against a formidable, battle-hardened army. The problem is that our information dissemination structures are still in their infancy. And that is what I always tell whoever I meet who is in a position to do something. Saying, don't look for talent within the army. The army is a fantastic fighting force. And I often say this, that the Indian army is the most fearsome fighting machine this world has ever seen. It's because, you should see these guys. They're terrifying. And the amount of violence that they can inflict is mind-boggling. I mean, it's unimaginable the kind of violence the Indian army can bring to the doorstep of the enemy. However, information warfare is a different ballgame. Having spoken about the conventional conflict that may or may not happen in the Galwan area or East Ladakh, or now recently in Nakula in Sikkim, that apart, if you're talking from a PSYOPs point of view, if you're talking from an IW point of view, I think the gains made on ground by the Indian Army, and we mustn't forget the Indian Air Force, which has done a fantastic job. The gains made by them on ground, standing up to the Chinese, staring down the Chinese, hammering the life out of the Chinese. We were not able to, Kamal, disseminate it in such a manner, because the Indian Army has always focused on sharpening the edge of the sword. That is the mindset. Being a former army officer myself, I can tell you that training forms a very, very, very integral part of the Indian Army's existence itself. They are forever, if they're not fighting, they're training. That's all that the Indian Army does. It either fights or trains. There is nothing else to do in the forge. They're permanently training, and they're training for incidents like Galwan, or incidents like the line of actual control, the line of control, or counterinsurgency operations, etc., etc. Now, the thing is that there should be a realization. There is a realization, but I think we need to speed it up. That information warfare should be treated like any other strike corps of the army. Now we have pivot corps, which are mostly defensive in nature with limited offensive capability. And then we have strike corps, which go deep inside enemy territory. And we have 3 strike corps, and the 4th one is, of course, coming up. 17 Corps is coming up. It's a mountain strike corps in Panagarh. And we have 1, 2, and 21 strike corps. I think the mindset should be that information warfare is India's 4th strike corps.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.